Hare Rama Reading from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 20, Text 13. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Rajaḥ-pradhānān mahatas.
Rajaḥ-pradhānān mahatas.
Tri-liṅgo daiva-coditāt.
Tri-liṅgo daiva-coditāt.
Jātaḥ sasarja bhūtādir.
Jātaḥ sasarja bhūtādir.
Viyad-ādīni pañcaśaḥ.
Viyad-ādīni pañcaśaḥ.
Rajaḥ-pradhānān mahatas.
Rajaḥ-pradhānān mahatas.
Tri-liṅgo daiva-coditāt.
Tri-liṅgo daiva-coditāt.
Jātaḥ sasarja bhūtādir.
Jātaḥ sasarja bhūtādir.
Viyad-ādīni pañcaśaḥ.
Viyad-ādīni pañcaśaḥ.
Rajaḥ-pradhānān mahatas.
Rajaḥ-pradhānān mahatas.
Daiva-coditāt.
Tri-liṅgo daiva-coditāt.
Sasarja bhūtādir.
Jātaḥ sasarja bhūtādir.
Pañcaśaḥ.
Viyad-ādīni pañcaśaḥ.
Ladies? Rajaḥ-pradhānān,
Rajaḥ-pradhānān,
in which the elements of rajas or passion predominates.
which is the elements of rajas or passion predominate.
Mahatas
Mahatas,
and mahat-tattva.
the mahat-tattva,
Tri-liṅgo
tri-liṅgo,
of three kinds.
of three kinds.
Daiva-coditāt,
Daiva-coditāt,
impelled by superior authority.
compelled by superior authorities.
Jātaḥ was here.
Was here.
Sasarja
Sasarja,
evolved.
evolved.
Bhūtādir, the false ego.
The false ego.
Origin of the material elements.
Origin of the material elements.
Viyad,
Viyad,
the ether.
the ether.
Ādīni,
Ādīni,
beginning with.
beginning with.
pañcaśaḥ,
Pañcaśaḥ,
in groups of 5.
in groups of 5.
Translation: as impelled by the destiny of the jīva, the false ego, which is of 3 kinds, evolved from the mahat-tattva, in which the elements of rajas predominates. From the ego, in turn, involved many groups of 5 principles. The primordial matter or prakriti, material nature, consisting of three modes, generates four groups of five. The first group is called elementary and consists of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. The second group of five is called tanmatra, referring to the subtle elements, sense objects, sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. The third group is the five sense organs for acquiring knowledge, ears, eyes, nose, tongue, and skin. The fourth group is the five working senses, speech, hands, feet, anus, and genitals. Some say that there are five groups of five. One group is the sense objects, one is the five elements. One is the five sense organs for acquiring knowledge, another is the senses for working, and the fifth group is the five deities who control these divisions. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Guru Vishnam Sapitam Yena Bhūtale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Adadanas-chanam dante idam yache puna puna Śrīmad-Rupa padamboja Ulisham janma janmani Vairagya bhakti mrisam priyatnai Apayama manavipsamantham Kripam guriya paraduka duki Sanatanastam prabhumasriyami Pañcaśaḥ kripa sindhu vayevcha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, Maitreya Muni is instructing Vidura. Even though in a sense Vidura is higher in Bhakti, and Vidura was himself being instructed by Uddhava, who is the most intimate associate of Krishna outside of Vrindavan. Outside of Vrindavan, the highest is Uddhava. Because outside of Vrindavan, Krishna appears as a king or he appears as the Supreme Lord. And therefore, the relationship one can have with Krishna outside of Vrindavan goes to the extent of servitude with some tinges of friendship. It's like 2.5 relationships you could have, maximum. But even the friends, just like the Brahmachandra, even when his friends used to play with him, they could never be in the mood to defeat him because they had cognizance of his position. So Uddhava was the highest because he was called Parishad. It's a type of servant that becomes a confidant. And we know that Uddhava himself was so intimate with Krishna that Krishna could reveal his most intimate feelings of conjugal love for the gopis to Uddhava and trusted him to deliver that message to Vrindavan. But even though Uddhava was instructing Vidura, and when they saw Maitreya Muni in the close proximity, who was a Jnani Bhakti, who was a Bhakta, whose devotion was mixed with a strong understanding of Krishna's divinity, and therefore mixed with a feeling of reverence and obligation, which in a sense weakens devotion compared to the intimate love of the residents of Vrindavan, which is called Kevala Bhakti, Sri Guru Charana Padma, Kevala Bhakti, only Bhakti, because it's only for love. There's no sense, I must do this because this is the king or this is God. Which also indicates a slight fear that maybe I will make a mistake. What are the rules? So there's something just a little external to love, even at the level of pure devotion. These are pure devotees. In Vaikuntha, they're pure devotees, but Krishna is God. What are the rules? And it's something external. It's some obligation. It's some duty. Even Lochan Das Thakur, when he describes what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give, he describes Parama Karuna Bahu Dvijana Nittai Gaura Chandra Sabhavatar Sarashiramani Kevala Ananda Kanda. He gave the path of Ananda. He gave the path of Ananda. Kevala Ananda. Only Ananda. No obligation, no duty. Spontaneous devotion to Krishna. So Uddhava was mixed with that, so he was very high. And Vidura was such a confidant of Krishna that when Krishna was leaving this world, and before him were Uddhava and Maitreya Muni, he looked at Uddhava and said, "How is Vidura?" Because Vidura went on pilgrimage for 39 years. How is Vidura? So, still, Maitreya Muni, Krishna was not looking at him. His love was not as forceful. So Krishna was not really looking at him. But still, out of etiquette, when Uddhava was instructing Vidura, he knew in the proximity was Maitreya Muni. And he said, you go to Maitreya Muni. Out of etiquette, I cannot. So Maitreya Muni is instructing Vidura. And he's instructing him on Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha Gyan means that if you want to understand Bhakti, and you want to understand your relationship with Krishna, you have to understand reality. You can't be a devotee unless you understand who is God, what is spirit, what is matter, and what is the controller of both, and what is the relationship between them. If you don't understand the relationship between matter and spirit, and the controller of both, who is God or Krishna, you cannot have bhakti. And what is the relationship? If you think that matter, that spirit is matter, or if you think the self is the body, you cannot develop your relationship with Krishna. If you don't understand the relationship between spirit and God, you think that spirit is God. You think that the individual soul is God. You cannot serve Krishna. Or, if you don't understand the relationship between God and material world, matter, you think that God is matter, you can't serve God. So to serve God and have devotion for God, you have to have an understanding of reality, which means you have to understand the relationship of the major components of reality, which is spirit, matter, and the controller in both, and their relationship. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matas sarvam pavartate iti bhufa bhajanti mam buddha bhava samavita. I am the source of the material and spiritual worlds, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. The wise who know this engage in my devotional service. Buddha, Bhava. From Buddha, or understanding, comes Bhava, or devotion. That's the chapter shloki Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita has 4 nutshell verses, and what's the first one? Sambandha Gyan. And that Sambandha Gyan, that clear understanding of who you are and who is God, that's the foundation for understanding your real eternal relationship with Krishna. So here in the Bhagavatam, although the conclusion to Maharaj Parikshit's question is given at the very, very beginning, and one who is surrendered fully to Guru and Krishna, he doesn't need any more instructions. I thought there's something more interesting there, so what is it? He doesn't need any more instructions. There's 2 ways to read the Bhagavatam. This is mentioned by Jiva Goswami. The first is you read it to get instructions, to surrender. But once you understand that, you don't need to be told again. The Krishna manifests in your heart by hearing the Bhagavatam once. When you are surrendered fully, you have Krishna in your heart, and then you read the Bhagavatam. You still read the Bhagavatam, and you read all the cantos of the Bhagavatam, but you read it in a different way. You read it to relish your relationship with Krishna. But until we actually are surrendered, Sharanagati, we take shelter of Krishna fully, which is the door to Bhakti, then we have to hear those instructions again and again and again. Just like, you don't have to sit down for 2 hours and tell Om Rishikesh. You have to worship the deity. You have to worship the deity. Right? You don't have to tell him that. He understands that. Or you don't have to tell Vaisheshika Prabhu, you have to distribute books. You have to distribute books. This is why you have to distribute books. Because he understands that. So similarly, if you are surrendered, then you hear the Bhagavatam once, and Krishna is in your heart. Just like Lal Babu. Lal Babu was an aristocratic Calcutta landlord. There's many different stories of him, but he was very pious. And he passed by a sweeper. And when he saw the sweeper lady in Calcutta, the sweeper lady passed by him, and she was sweeping with a broom, and she said to him, time is passing, move on. And when he heard that, he heard the message of the Bhagavatam. The world is temporary. Don't become distracted. Go to spiritual life. He surrendered fully, gave up everything. Lived in a little mud hut in Vrindavan and used all his wealth to build one of the most glorious temples in Vrindavan. He lived outside in the courtyard, in the gardens. But the Bhagavatam has to give some Sambandha Gyan. We have to understand this clearly. I was in Croatia. Where are you from, Mataji? Where are you from?
France.
What?
France.
France. Okay. There's no looking for someone from the Balkans here, but there's no one from the Balkans here. So it's just in. No. Okay. Usually in every temple there's someone from the Balkans. I was just in Croatia, and I attended a kirtan retreat with Srimad-Bhāgavatam Swami. very beautiful, on an island. I mean, really, wow. It was such a beautiful place. It was really beautiful. I mean, amazing. Right before lunch, run out the door and just dive in the Adriatic Sea, crystal clear water, perfect weather, and so much nice guitar. So Satchidananda Swami, when they asked me to speak on Kirtan in the Bhagavatam, now we know from Ishvara Puri in his instructions to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that the essence of the Bhagavatam is to chant the names of your beloved Lord without any inhibition, that means embarrassment, and without any attachment to Sangha. To just absorb yourself in the holy names of God is the essence of the Bhagavatam. The last verse in the Bhagavatam says what? It says Nama Sankirtan. Very last verse. Chant Nam Sankirtan. Last verse of the Bhagavatam. And the first instructions to Maharaj Parikshit, the very first instruction to the very first teaching to Maharaj Parikshit in answer to his question, what is the duty of a man who's about to die and what should he not do? The very first instruction is the peerless, if you want to be fearless at the time of death, the peerless method of success for all is Hari Namanu Kirtana. To do Nam Kirtan. Is at the beginning, is at the end. The Bhagavatam is about Nam Sankirtan. That's very clear. Even if you analyze the pastimes of Krishna, because when he asked me to give this class one morning, and I just thought, wow, I went to a pastime that I read of Dhanurdhara, which describes basically the day and the life of Krishna as a cowherd boy. So it's very interesting that the beginning of the pastime, Krishna leaves to the forest with his friends who are singing his glories. They're doing kirtan. Then, in the forest, his friends are doing kirtan. And it describes how that kirtan should be done. It should be done from the heart, affection, and it should be done appropriately. Appropriately means, you should do kirtan properly. And anyway, that's a whole other story. And then when he comes from the forest, he's doing kirtan. So the essence of the Bhagavatam is to become in samadhi of the holy names of Krishna without any distraction. That's what the Bhagavatam's about. It's to bring you to a point where you're chanting the holy name in complete absorption, jatanuraga, and when you do that, then prema or bhava manifests in the heart. And the symptom of prema or bhava is you're not cognizant of anything else. You're so absorbed. There's different levels of samadhi. The difference between samadhi and dhruvana smriti, or dhyana, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, samana, the last three levels of samadhi in Ashtanga Yoga. Up to pratyahara, there's still connection with the senses, the mind and the senses. When you get to dharana, there's the connection. There's no longer a connection between the senses, the senses, the mind and the senses. And that's when you really can begin to meditate. And when you're meditating, then the meditation becomes more and more intense. And there's a description of the difference. I forgot about dhyana. When you get to dhyana, your meditation is very, very deep, but you are cognizant of the outside world. When you're at the level of samadhi or prema, you are not cognizant of the outside world. So the essence of the Bhagavatam is you come to that point where you're absorbed to such a level in love of Krishna by chanting Krishna's beloved names that you're not even cognizant of what's anything else. That's prema. And the method to get there is Nam Kirtan, which is mentioned in the Bhagavatam, the 11th canto. Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sangopangasta Parshadam Yagyai Sankirtana Prayir Yajanti Hi Sameda Saha. That the method, because the Bhagavatam is for the Kali Yuga, so the method is Nam Sankirtan. So the method is Nam Sankirtan, and the goal is Nam Sankirtan. There's just two types of Nam Sankirtan in the Bhagavatam. One Nam Sankirtan is sadhana. You chant Nam Sankirtan so that you reach love of Godhead. And then when you have love of Godhead, you do Sankirtan out of love of Godhead. The practice to get prema is Nam Kirtan, and when you have prema, the activity to express it is Nam Kirtan. That's the 10th canto. The 10th canto is Kirtan. So here, in the 3rd canto, there's 10 subject matters of the Bhagavatam, and those different subject matters of the Bhagavatam are meant to bring you to the perfectional state. Because we do have so many attachments in the world, and we have to be purified. If we are not purified, then we can't chant purely. If we're not purified, we cannot hear purely. When we'll hear Krishna's pastimes, we will think they are either mundane because of our material desires, or we'll think they are mythological because of our lack of proper knowledge. So the Bhagavatam has to clear us of material desires, and it has to clear us of misconceptions, so we can come to the platform of chanting the pure holy name of Krishna, and come to the platform of hearing Krishna's pastime. So here, naturally Maitreya Muni is giving Sambandha Gyan. And the first part of this Sambandha Gyan is to distinguish between the soul and the body. The soul and everything else. And then sometimes, as is mentioned, then sometimes the 25th element is God. So you have to understand the difference. And this is a jnanic process. This is samkhya. You do it by analysis. You analyze everything and you see, wow, there's something different from the soul. You analyze everything, you see there's something different from, there's something different from the soul, which is God. You see there's something different from matter, which is the soul. You see something different from the soul, which is God. So this is what's happening here. But when one already is convinced of that, he hears it in another way. He just hears, this is Krishna's glories, my Krishna, my friend, my lover, my son. This is his glories. You read it in relish. But we're not up to that point, because we don't have full manifestation of Sambandha Gyan. So we still need to develop that discrimination. So that's here. Satyananda also asked me to speak about something else at the retreat. Maybe one other day I can speak about it here. It's a fascinating subject. Why kirtan gives the most bliss? Congregational chanting gives the most bliss. And I'm going to write the paper on that because I definitely have the outline there. But basically, it's based on a statement by Jiva Swami, who says, when he's discussing Nam Kirtan, he says congregational chanting of the holy name gives special feelings of bliss. So I'm a little bit of a philosopher, so I said, well, why is that? Why is that? So I gave 5 or 6 reasons and referenced it from the Bhagavatam. The first reason is the power of music. I got a beautiful quote from Prabhupada who said, music, because what does a yogi do to focus the mind? He chants mantras. So you focus the mind by hearing, basically. That's the best way. You hear, you focus the mind, one thing. Very beautiful at that retreat. There were 2 blind devotees. Beautiful people. One was a famous singer in the country. Another one was, he was amazing. Krishna said he was the only djembe player that knew how to coordinate the djembe with the mridanga. And Sughosh was there. Goshi, he's from America. And people loved them, Akinchin and Sughosh, they loved them. And they did the kirtans there. And I remember at the end, there was a very touching thing where the blind person wanted to learn mridanga. He was just in regular clothes, simple. Blind person. And Sughoshi took him out into the forest by the sea. I saw he was teaching him mridanga, and in 5 minutes, the guy was picking up mridanga. And then Goshi gave him his own mridanga, personally. It was so touching, the guy was so treasured. But the point is their hearing was very pronounced. Satchidananda said, when you lose one sense, the potency goes into another. So you see, they were very blissful because our movement is based on hearing. So they were very blissful because they were so absorbed. Beautiful lady, very pure, but blind. You couldn't tell she was blind. You know, she had something. But, she would sing so nicely. But you saw, look, they're so blissful. Because bliss is focusing on Krishna. The main way is hearing. And they were just completely absorbed in hearing. But anyway, because I have like 2 more minutes, I gave 1, the power of music. I discussed the power of music from the standpoint of psychology. I discussed the power of music from the standpoint of the soul. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur discusses that. But I had a quote by Prabhupada, just at that pramana. He said, music, hearing made easy by music. Then the second point, which I referenced from the Bhagavatam, is group petition is more powerful than individual petition. I have references from the Bhagavatam directly. And then I discussed how shared bliss is higher than individual bliss. So nice coming to the Bhakti Center, of course. Balaji and Ghanesham picked me up. We come back, there's a nice room, such hospitality. And then then Pradyumna comes in and wants to discuss Shastra Vichar. Shastra from different. He said, what are you up to? So I told him, he said, wow, I was discussing the same thing. And then he started talking about shared bliss being better than individual bliss from different religious traditions, from the Quakers, from a Quaker thing, and from this and different thing, but shared bliss better than individual bliss. But then there's another reason. Because of all the practices of devotional service, the only practice that is directly born from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the congregational chanting of the holy name. An old arisen saint told me this. He quoted from Chaitanya Bhagavat, Sankirtanaika Nipano, and Sankirtanaika Pitaro. He said, Sankirtan, Lord Chaitanya is the father of Sankirtan. Therefore, the congregational chanting is born from Lord Chaitanya. Therefore, it's Lord Chaitanya's son. Therefore, you please the Father, you please the Son. So, there's a special mercy from congregational chanting of the holy name. So, we discussed that. But, if you look at the last verse in the Bhagavatam, which is very significant, the last verse says, you want to be free, then you sankirtan. The holy of sankirtan, nam sankirtan. Okay, we have 45 seconds for a question. Yes.
This also Jan Mr. Bhakta or
Yeah.
Jan Bhakta.
Yeah.
I thought it's always like you said it's because of they have a sense of awe, reverence, and knowledge of Krishna.
Yeah.
I always thought it was like that it meant to be they have some personal understanding.
Well, Maitreya Buddha is a devotee, and he's called a Jnani Bhakta. So obviously the term can be used in different ways. It means a Bhakta who is fully cognizant of Krishna, of God, and therefore worships with awe and reverence. And Mother Yasoda is not cognizant of Krishna as God. She doesn't want to know that Krishna is God. So there's no obligation, there's no duty, there's no fear. So that type of devotion is a little higher. So Maitreya Buddha is that sense. Uddhava is more intimate. Krishna is his friend. Dhanurdhara is his uncle, or some kind of relative. So they have a more intimate sense, and therefore their devotion is a little bit more powerful, more forceful.
But there's still Srimad Bhakta, right?
What?
That means in that category when
It's called a Jnani Bhakta. You look it up. Maitreya Buddha is Jnani Bhakta.
but he also still Sudha Bhakta.
What?
Also still Sudha Bhakta or because
You could be a pure devotee and fully cognizant that Krishna is God in Vaikuntha. But Lord Chaitanya in the Chaitanya Charitamrita still says that devotion made feeble by that. You can't get out of that. You can't get out of that concept. It's made a little weak. But it's a different concept. I wish I had that weak bhakti, right? I mean, I'm not putting like, whoa, but I'm just saying it's different. Just like the different relationships, the basis of all of them is servitude. That's the basis of all devotion. And in fact, you can't have rag without Aishvarya initially. Because Aishvarya, this is great, is the basis of servitude. And servitude is the pot in which any flavor of devotion is kept. This is mentioned in the story of daiva-coditāt. Because right in the middle of all the Krishna and the coward boys, it goes, all of a sudden there's a verse, otam protam. Krishna is the horizontal and the vertical. So I called up, when this verse came up right in the middle of the Leela, I called up, I do a thing in Vrindavan, it's called Daila Shastri. You have a phone? I call him up. I have a friend, he's a Shastri. I said, what is this? And immediately, these kind of people, they know 10 commentaries by heart. And he says, Madhva says, that dasya, the mood of servitude, is the pot in which rag is kept, any sense of devotion. So he said, therefore, there must be some sense of Aishvarya initially, because without Aishvarya, we're not going to have any sense of servitude. So that's there also. Okay, it is time, I believe, and I keep the time. That's my nature. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Last Dhanurdhara Swami.
Jai!